All right, so this is going to be the second talk. Should be in the morning sometime, and it will be mostly a need talk with a little bit of sin at the end. So the idea is that the sin portion will start in this talk, and then we'll pick that up again in the talk that would be this evening on this day. And so the cross talk will be sin and cross. Need talk will be need and sin a little bit. So yeah. Hey guys, I am so excited to be back here with you guys. How was last night? How was your cabin time? How was the pizza snack that you guys got? I mean, how great is Oakbridge? Oakbridge is the best, isn't it? So yeah, I'm just gonna kind of pick up where I left off. I mentioned a few things about myself yesterday. I mentioned how I'm married and I have a few kids. I have 3 kids, Hazel, Harper, and Heath. I talked about how I almost missed out on meeting my wife because I thought I knew what she was going to be like, and it turned out she was way better than I could have ever imagined. I talked about how Jesus is sort of like that, how Jesus also was like way better than anything I could have ever imagined, and how his love for me has totally changed my life. And as I've allowed him to love me more, it's like, man, it just starts making things right in my life and makes me want to change to where I can make him happy. But the thing I want you guys to know about that more than anything is that no matter who you are or what you believe or what you've done or what people say about you or what you think about yourself, man, Jesus is so excited to be friends with you. Like, he really, really wants to be in a relationship with you, and he will chase you down just like he went after Zacchaeus. And he wants to look at you the same way that he looked at Zacchaeus, with those eyes of love. But still, we got to talk about how messy life gets sometimes, right? I mean, like, it's just life can be kind of messy and things aren't always clean. I mean, like, I love my kids, right? But I will never forget the first time when my wife Candace left me alone with our daughter Hazel. She was probably 6 months old or so. I mean, she was little. She's an itty bitty baby. And I thought, okay, I'm ready. I think I'm ready for this. I can do it, Candace. You can trust me. I'm pretty sure we're both gonna survive a few hours on our own. So go out and have some fun with your friends. Get out of here, take a little break, and me and Hazel are gonna hang out, and it's gonna be great. And it was great for a while. I mean, when a baby's 6 months old, they can't really do much. They kind of just eat, sleep, poop, cry, that kind of stuff. And so that was sort of the way it was going. And then Hazel, at one point, Hazel just fell asleep on my chest. And that, oh man, that's such a great feeling to just have your daughter fall asleep on your chest. And so we were watching, I'm pretty sure we were watching bull riding on TV. You gotta remember, I'm from Texas, and so I like to watch some bull riding. And so we were watching some bull riding on TV, and I'm sitting there with my daughter and just thinking, oh man, there is nowhere else I'd rather be in life. This is about the as good as it gets ever, right? And I'm sitting there and enjoying this moment of Hazel and I bonding and me just getting to love her and be her daddy. And all of a sudden, I hear a little bit of a rumbling. And I can kind of feel it too. And then there's a little bit of moisture. She's just wearing her diaper in a onesie. And I'm holding her like this. And I start to feel a little bit of moisture around her back, the small of her back. And then I start to smell that smell. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. The smell that no one's really ever excited to smell this smell. And so I realized that my daughter had what us professional parents like to refer to as a blowout diaper. Now, if you don't have any little brothers or sisters or cousins or any little kids little babies in your life, you maybe don't know what a blowout diaper is. But a blowout diaper is essentially that a diaper can only handle so much. And sometimes there's more than that is inside of a baby. And just to clarify, we're talking about poop right now. So So blowout diaper is the poop has to go somewhere, and generally it will just kind of ooze out of the diaper. A lot of times it likes to ooze out straight up the back, and so that's exactly what happened. I kind of look at Hazel, and I kind of move her over to the side and look down, and yeah, there's this brownish like streak just going right up her back, and if there's one thing, this is not the most important thing, but it's something like I hate poop, guys. I'm not gonna lie, like I can't handle it. I'm pretty sure we have a dog at home, and she poops a lot, and I'm pretty sure that our whole neighborhood knows when I'm picking up the poop in our backyard, because it is just a lot of dry heaving, a lot of noise. I'm not quiet when I dry heave, and so I think the whole neighborhood can hear the whole kind of, yeah, like it's not fun for anyone. So I hate poop. Like the idea of getting poop on me really grosses me out. Like I can't think of anything more disgusting than that. So I'm stuck with this dilemma because my daughter's covered in poop, and I hate poop. Like I hate it, but I love my daughter, and I know that like I can't just sort of like carry her and put her over in her crib and kind of walk away and like, all right, like clean yourself up and then we can hang out again. I mean, she's a baby. What's she gonna do? She's gonna roll around and just make the poop's gonna get everywhere. She's gonna get more poop on her. Eventually, if I were to leave her like that, she'd end up getting sick, and bad things would happen, and that would be a really unloving, awful thing for me to do as a dad. Even though I hate poop, I love her way more. And so I took her over and I started just cleaning her up because that's what she needed, and I'm her dad, and I love her, and I'm gonna do what needs to be done for her because she can't do it on her own. There's a story in the Bible where Jesus meets some people who are in a bad way, and they desperately need someone to come in. Jesus has just gotten to this town, right? And like we saw in the story about Zacchaeus, like people would hear about Jesus coming and they would just run towards him. Like Jesus, they wanted to see Jesus do something Jesus-y, and that was just basically fixing everything. Like he would just make wrong things right. Like we said last time, like you can't see. He healed people who were blind and they could see. People were acting crazy, and Jesus would step into their life, and everything would just become normal for them. People that couldn't walk would be able to walk. People who couldn't hear would be able to hear. It was like everything bad in the world, Jesus could touch it and just make it right. And so people would know this, and when he'd come, they would run towards him. So this one time he comes to this town, and this super important guy finds out that Jesus is there. The guy's name is Jairus. And Jairus is kind of a big deal in the town. He's a synagogue leader, sort of like a pastor, but like each town had like one synagogue, so he would have been like a really important guy. A lot of people would have known who he was, and he probably would have been someone that people held up on like put on a high place. And this guy had a daughter, and we find out his daughter was 12 years old, and his daughter was super, super sick, and Jairus had tried to do things to get her better, and nothing was working. And we find out she was so sick she was about to die. And so Jairus is like, man, Jesus just got into town. I am running over to him, and I'm gonna beg him to come over and to come and heal my daughter, because nothing's working, but I know that Jesus, when he touches stuff, things just get better. And so Jairus runs over, and we'll pick it up. Jairus runs up to Jesus, and then when he saw him, the Bible says he fell at Jesus' feet. So Jairus, this really important guy, this guy that people looked up to, like fell down on the ground in front of Jesus. And he begged him earnestly, saying, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her so that she may be well and live." He's like, my little girl, my precious daughter, She's so sick, she's about to die. Please, Jesus, I know if you just come over and you lay your hands on her, she will be better. She will be made well, and she will continue living this life. But I beg you, please come with me. And so Jesus says, okay, Jairus, like, I'm with you. Let's do this. Let's go. And so people get super excited, right? Because this is like, now it's not only Jesus doing Jesus-y things, but Jesus is about to go and do something Jesus-y with someone who's like important, like a big deal. Like Jesus is going to do something important for someone important. And so people just get hyped on this. Like they're just like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. And all of a sudden there's this huge, like literally like a mob of people. Just like, it would be like if we were going somewhere and all you guys are just crowding around me. I mean, it would be like massive, but probably times 10. I mean, there was probably a lot of people there. And in that crowd is someone who also really needed something from Jesus. We find out that there was a woman, and we don't even ever find out her name. It just says there was a woman there. And the Bible says that this woman had had a discharge of blood for 12 years. And she had suffered much under a bunch of different doctors and spent all her money, and she wasn't getting better, she was just getting worse. So there was this woman, this woman that we don't even know her name, because she's so insignificant. And she is at the end of her rope. The Bible tells us that she was bleeding for 12 years. Now, back in those days, it wasn't like if you were bleeding, people would come and help you out or anything. Like nowadays, maybe people might put some rubber gloves on, but if you're like bleeding, someone's going to help you out. Back then, if you were bleeding, you were considered unclean. And people who were unclean were not allowed to be a part of normal life or the normal society. They were sort of cast out, and for the time that they were unclean, they had to kind of be separated from everything. Because if they touched anyone who was clean, that person then would become unclean. Like, unclean just beat clean all the time. I mean, we see this today still. Like WyldLife, a camp that I get to go to a lot of times in the summer, they have this mud pit. And the mud pit is awesome. And you enter in, you're clean, and you just get all grimy and muddy. And one of my favorite things to do is go and chase down people who don't want to get in the mud pit, who are still clean, and give them a big hug. Because then, like, they're dirty after that. I've transferred some of the mud on them. And now they're also muddy. And normally they'll be like, okay. And then they come and join us and play in the mud. But, like, just dirty stuff makes clean stuff dirty. And so this poor woman who is unclean, if she touched anyone, that person became unclean too. So they would take these unclean people and just sort of make them kind of be separate. And so that was this woman's life for 12 years. And we don't know much about her, but I mean, imagine if she had had a family. Like, basically after 12 years, you kind of forget someone. And so she may have been forgotten. For 12 years, she had just been pushed aside. And it wasn't like she was just sitting there miserable. Like, she was trying to get better. She was trying to clean herself off. She was trying to make it to where this wasn't true anymore. But no matter how much stuff she did on her own, it just got worse. To the point where not only was she sick and unclean, but she was also broke. She had used all of her money, all of her resources. And she's at the end of her rope. And she's probably at that point where she's just like, this is just the worst. Like, it cannot get any worse than this. What's the point? But Jesus is in town. And she hears that Jesus is in town. And she had heard the reports about Jesus. She had heard of Jesus doing his Jesus-y things. And so she came up behind him. So she decides, like I don't care. I don't care if people find out, like, and they stone me or something. I got no other choice. Like, if people find out, and back then, if an unclean person were to be so bold as to go through a mob of people, and it was found out that they just made all these other people unclean, like, they could be killed. And this woman is like, I don't care. This is worth it. I gotta do something. She's at the end of her rope, but she's not quite brave enough to, like, actually be bold about it and, like, run through there and be like, Jesus, will you make me better, please? Like, here's what's going on. Will you please come and make me better? Because, man, what if Jesus said no? Like, she had heard of Jesus doing Jesus-y things, but she had never met him before. And kind of like how I was when I was in 8th grade, I kind of knew who Jesus was, but I thought he was, like, not as good as he really is. And this woman, She hasn't met Jesus yet. She's heard of him. And she knows that he can do these great things, but she doesn't know if he would do it for her. She's afraid that if she were to ask him, that he'd be like, no way, get lost, you're unclean. Like, I'm not going to touch you. Go out and be with the other unclean people. What are you doing here? You know? So she thought, if I can just sneak up and touch just the fringe of his robe, man, what if that makes me better? And so that's what she did. She snuck in there and she got right up behind Jesus and she touched just the fringe of his garments. And immediately the flow of blood dried up and she felt in her body that she was healed. Like, I don't know what that must have felt like, but she knew from the second she touched it. I don't know if it was like this ginormous like ray of light came out and surrounded her. I mean, I don't think that happened because no one else noticed it. Or if she just felt the power of Jesus kind of course through her body. And she felt that inside of her body, things were like being made right. And if she just felt that power come over her and make her totally clean. But whatever that was, she knew right away everything was different. And she wasn't the only one. As soon as she felt that power had gone and she was healed of her disease, we see that Jesus also felt that power had gone out from him. And immediately he stops and starts asking people, like, who touched me? Who touched my garments? And it's funny because he's in a mob of people and there's people crowding all around him. And his disciples, his friends are like, Jesus, dude, you're crazy, man. There's like, I just touched you. People are touching you left and right. Like, let's go, dude. We can't stop right now. We're on our way. We're on a mission to do something important for someone important. We don't have time to sit and have this discussion as to who around you maybe touched you, because who cares? Like, tons of people are touching you. But Jesus was persistent. And Jesus said, no, someone touched me, and I have to know who touched me. And we see that this woman is there. And I don't know how far she had gotten. I don't know if she touched Jesus and was like frozen right then because it was like just an experience of being healed, or if she had started to walk away. But we find that the woman, who knowing what had happened, came and she was afraid and she was trembling. So this lady now is like, I don't know, like, remember, she still hasn't met Jesus. She's experienced him now, but she's not met him. She's not in a relationship with him. So she doesn't really know what he's going to do. And so she's scared and she's trembling because he has the right to say, like, how dare you touch me while you're unclean? And he could just cast her aside like everyone else had. But so she comes up and she falls down before him and she told him the whole truth. Some translations in the Bible say she told him her whole story. Like she told him everything. And the beautiful thing about this is that Jesus didn't rush her along. He sat there with this woman who we don't even know her name. And he let her tell him everything. And I imagine that maybe he was even asking some questions like, no way. Well, what happened with this? And, like he wanted to enter into this woman's story. He wanted to know her whole story, even though he was on his way to do something really important, for someone really important. He stopped for this lady that no one knew, that people had forgotten, who was sick, and she probably stunk really bad. I mean, blood. If you've been bleeding for 12 years, hygiene wasn't that great back then, and you had to have smelled. So she's stinky, she's lonely, she's forgotten, she's rejected. People don't want to know that she's around. And most people probably didn't even notice her. The disciples, Jesus' closest friends, for sure didn't notice her. But Jesus sat with this woman as she told him her whole story. You guys, that is who Jesus is. He wants to know your whole story. He's not in a hurry. It's not like he just wants to hang out with the important people. Like we talked about last night with him hanging out with Zacchaeus and the wrong kind of people. Jesus wants to hang out with everyone. It doesn't matter if you feel like in your life, like you're just forgotten, like no one notices you. You're just this guy that blends in, that people don't seem to care. You wonder even, like, would people know if I was around tomorrow or not? Jesus knows you. He knows you, and he wants to sit with you, and he wants to be in a relationship with you, and he's patient enough to be with you as you tell him your whole story. Guys, that is a powerful thing. That is a powerful thing. The other thing is that like this woman, guys, we got some mess. We got some mess in our life. We got some things in our life that just aren't the way they should be. And those things are just making us weak. They're robbing us of life. The Bible has a certain word for this called sin. And what sin basically is, at the root of everything, it's just our lack of trust in God. It's us just not believing that God has the very best for us. And so we take things into our own hands. And this has been happening for as long as the world has existed almost. And we see the way that this plays out in all the brokenness in the world, in the mass shootings that happen, in the wars that are started. This world is just not the way it should be, and it is messy. And all of us in our lives have done things that we really wish we hadn't done. Some of us maybe have done things that, man, we're like that woman. And if anyone knew, we're so afraid that if anyone found out about those things, they wouldn't want to be our friends anymore. That we would end up alone, cast aside by ourselves. Some of us have had things done to us that weren't our fault, but it kind of feels like maybe we deserved it. We've had things done to us that just have made us just wallow in shame. And there's nothing that we can do to kind of erase it. Like maybe we try certain things, like we try to do really good in sports, or we try to be a really good student, or we try to fit in with the cool kids at school, or party, or whatever. We try to find acceptance and like comfort in relationships with boys or girls, because we think, man, like that'll make me feel like I actually matter, or that'll make me forget who I am. But at the end of the day, we know that there's some stuff in our lives that is just not the way it should be. And we're terrified that someone might find out about that. You guys, Jesus wants to step into that with you. Not only does Jesus already know about all that stuff, but he loves you exactly the way you are, not the way you should be. I will say that again and again, because that is one of the most true things in this world, that Jesus loves you the way you are right now, not the way you should be. And he has the power to clean you up. Like me with my daughter. I would have been a really bad dad if I would have just set her there. And even if I would have been like, oh, Candace will be home in a bit. She can clean her up when she gets home. I'm just like, that's gross. I don't want anything to do with that. That would have been a bad dad. And I love my daughter way more than I hate poop. So I entered into that with her, and I started to clean her up. Jesus wants to do the same thing, and we need him, guys. There's nothing that we can do on our own to get ourselves out of this mess. The more that we try, the messier it gets. The only one who can really clean us is Jesus. And he not only is able to, but he really wants to. He loves it. He loves loving us at our worst. He loves coming in and touching us like he did with this woman, sitting with us and hearing our whole story. He loves that. And he wants nothing more than to get to do that with you guys. The Bible tells us that all of us have sinned and turned our backs on God's. All of us have done this. And all of us need Jesus to step into that mess with us and to clean us up. And it's not just a have to, guys, it's a get to. And Jesus feels the same way. He doesn't do it because he has to. He does it because he wants to. Because he loves us. Because he really likes us. Because he enjoys being with us. And he enjoys us so much more than he doesn't like our mess. like he is actually one of those people who loves the process of making people whole, of making people clean again. And he wants to do that in your life. But we have to let him. We have to let him come in. We have to be like that woman. We have to be willing to like come at his feet and actually begin to tell him everything. He doesn't force himself on us. That's not a Jesus-y way of doing things. Jesus waits for us to come to him. He will hunt for us, and he will search us. And like Zacchaeus, he will stand under that tree and say, hey, Luke, come down here. But he's not going to force it. It's up to us. So we're going to finish this story and the story of me with my daughter tonight. But I just want you guys to hang out here. All right. We're going to go back to cabin times. Your leaders have some questions. And I hope you guys just have a wonderful cabin time. And I'll see you tonight. Pray, and then we're out.